democracy right out the window. So your town nurse bosses would be elected, and you'd say to them, hey, what are you doing? And they'd be elected people, and they wouldn't be, these cloistered idiots that have a degree and that are so much trouble. These people are such trouble and so costly. Oh, boy, do I have some stories to tell. But these town nurse people, they could be a town nurse. My mother was a town nurse. Or they could be qualified. You wouldn't be able to run unless you were qualified. You wouldn't be able to run unless you were qualified. Now, for the Town Nurse Oversight Board, I think you could be easily qualified, but you'd have to be in the field. And there would be 25 of these people elected. You could be retired. You could be a retired doctor. And your job would be to be in the mix. You'd be doing a little work. If you weren't doing any work in the system, then you would not qualify to be on this board. So this is a 25-man board. It's an oversight board. It's people in the field doing the work, working with the people, knowing the people, helping out the town nurse-based 7-man board in ways that are competitive and also in ways that are cooperative, both. So in a competitive way, the Town Nurse Oversight Board would be talking and say, look, this nurse is a little bit nutty with this client here. And, we talked about it, and we got to, quietly and discreetly kind of, get this handled. So it has that effect of checks and balances. Now, this wouldn't be complete unless you had ombudsmen of a nature that were pretty high level. And these would be what I call your town nurse moderators. And let's say there would be a circuit, like a circuit judgeship or a tripartite board of three-man board, which could also they would have to be lawyers, perfect lawyers. We need more lawyers, right? Hate to do that to the system, but people that are disabled, poor people that are being ministered to, have to have the channels of appeal that are workable and open and fair and good. And it's just the American way. It's appealable. What do you mean? What do you mean? You're throwing this guy away and you're saying he's crazy. He's got 8 major mental illnesses. He's an activist. What are you doing? So the town nurse moderators could hear that case. That'd make a fun movie, I think, but you don't want the rich people getting out of control, right? So, again, checks and balances, big deal. And the people are right square in the middle, right smack dab in the middle of all this. People who vote. Oh, as I was mentioning, if you were qualified and you were running for, you lived, let's say, in Wellfleet, and there was a town nurse board that comprised P-Town, Truro, Wellfleet. And I'm looking over there at this map that's behind me, that's on a screen now. So if you had people that wanted to serve on the board for P-Town, Truro, and Wellfleet, then they would qualify and run and they would then commute. And they would serve the public, but not be citizens proper of the towns in question. But you would vote for them and approve of them to do this work. This would be their work. The town nurses, as I euphemistically call them, would be charged with all the work that's being done on the level of the poor and disabled. They would kind of take over, at first incrementally. They would absorb people in from different agencies, etc., who had been doing this work for their lives and their careers, so that you wouldn't want to obviously just throw the bums out, you know, if they were over budget, throw them all out. I mean, I'm not saying that. But you want to have some control, and the best local control, here it is right here. These systems have run amok, these social services systems. And I really know that's true. I really do know that's true. These systems have run amok. So this is the fix for our dinosaur social services style systems. So the town nurse moderators could be appointed. And this is kind of a tough area, these appointments, because there's a lot of power here with the town nurse moderators. So I think you'd want pools of people to be approved of, and then the pools would be rather nebulous, and you could overlap districts. These guys, or these people here, these lawyers, the town nurse moderators, could be specialized in this work and really be very functional, I think. It is specialized work. Hopefully we're going with either, and this is weird to hear anyone say this, hopefully we're going with either a single payer, socialist-based medical system that Bernie would like, or we're going with a libertarian-based system, which I would prefer, but I just don't see anybody in my party, the Republican Party, stepping up to do the work to facilitate this at all. I've never seen anybody in the Republican Party try to facilitate a good working libertarian-based medical system. But that's, I think if it were designed properly, that's what I would prefer to see. Now, with this town nurse-based system, this would be advantageous to either the single payer or the libertarian model. These are two extremes. And what we have in the middle now is a mishmash of this and that, multiple systems at play. So I think, though, to get off the track here, I think these systems need to be justified in an accounting perspective. And to do that, I would institute a tax on for-profit medical and a subsidy for the charity medical. And in this way, and this might be a little onerous to business owners, but I think Nixon got us off the track, and we got to get back on the track and do some reverse engineering. That's basically what I'm feeling about this. So if we do the reverse engineering slowly, we're better off. So if we give tax advantages and subsidies to charity medical, such as nonprofit clinics and hospitals and organizations that provide medical care. You can have highly paid, personnel. You can have very good, expertise, but it's just no one's getting robbed blind, and we're not all going bankrupt. I mean, our system now is such that I would say it's un-American. You either get yourself on the boat or stay on the dock. It's not like you can live with 1 foot on the boat and 1 foot on the dock, which is what we're trying to do. So this is where I'm coming from. Not with this town nurse-based system. This is neither here nor there with that system, but it is the most efficient system any way you slice it, even if you go to a libertarian model or you go to a socialist model. I prefer things be done right in the old-fashioned American way, the libertarian way, but I just don't see any Republicans capable of stepping up, or Democrats. They're not stepping up to even model up how that would work. As I've said before, my systems in this vein have some element of a class system to them. So if you said, as I put it this way, if you said, I need a new liver, I've been drinking all my life, give me my liver, the system might say to you, this puts you in a class, this self-destructive behavior puts you in a class where we're not going to give you the red carpet. And the technologies are so advanced with medical care, too, that we have to make choices about preemie care, which I find to be heart-wrenching. Some people are easily with spend everything we've got, spend every last dime, but I'm not with that on premature, disabled, multiple problems. And, so what are you saying? Oh, you're going to pull the plug. Oh, you're bad. You're going to kill somebody. It's a tough issues. These issues of rights to life are very, very tough issues. So I'm not saying I have them solved. Years ago, when I was zonked out and I was bedridden, I was working on some kind of middle-of-the-road program for the abortion issue, whereby doctors and their patients would be taxed to plant a tree for the unborn life in commemoration, and then this would help as a stepping stone. I haven't worked on that in years, but there are things we can do that are not abjectly in one camp or another. And as Arthur DeRocha said, if everyone's suffering, if everyone doesn't like it, then it's good. Him and I never got along, but there's some truth to that. Arthur would say this constantly. It's a compromise. Whatever it is he was talking about at the time, you have to be able to compromise. So these are the toughest issues, these medical issues. So back to the town nurse-based system. With the specter of people living on fecal-covered streets in San Francisco, which is all over Facebook, people are waking up to the fact that enough is enough. And whether you're right-wing or left-wing or middle of the road, you might agree that we should be having some control here, because this is patently inhumane, this business here. With all these homeless camps all over the place and all over the streets. So what I offer, which is the best you'll ever find on the table, what I'm offering here is the town nurse-based system as a real doable deal, even if you're a liberal, if you're a conservative, if you're middle of the road, this is where it's at. Because it's a deal where your 7-man board, your town nurses, along with your town nurse oversight board, and all your personnel that are in the field, working in the clubhouses, working at the job and bunk, these are residences, working in the jails, etc. This is where it's at to shift gears. And this can handle the chaos that we're looking at right now. It can handle it in yeoman fashion. Really, it can, because it's designed by me. And I spent years designing this. And I'm a clubhouse guy. I am a Bay Bridge man, Cove Clubhouse man. And I know how these systems work and why they're good, and what you need with a clubhouse, what you need with a job and bunk. I've worked in residence work. I've worked as a PCA. So I've been in the industry. I was raised in the industry because my mother was a town nurse. So I've got this in my blood, and I've got this. I didn't go into this system for nothing. I went into this system to grab that brass ring right here. That's the town nurse-based system. For all of us. It's not a right-wing, left-wing system. It's neither. Most of my systems can't be pegged into the right or to the left at all. So with the town nurse-based system, you've got the ability to set these things up and get them running with a lot of community. That's the other. Support is your community. Who did all the work before we had all these government workers coming in here saying, I can do, we got to do it this way, and pay me $90,000 a year, and I'll go to the store and help buy some lettuce for somebody. The community support is what defines this as an American system. As well, the town nurse board, the town nurse moderators, because the moderators define it as an American system because this is the ultimate checks and balance. It's basically a court system, which is tied to the courts. And the oversight board is basically, you could consider that a working union shop, if you would. With standards, town nurse-based standards, town nurse oversight board standards, town nurse moderator. It's all about the standards, as is the clubhouse where I'm from. It's all about the standards, standards-based, evidence-based, standards-based. So with the community support tying in, this is really the creme de la creme. If you didn't have community support tying in, it would be kind of like Casper milk toast, even if it were done very well. If you didn't have the community support from churches, retired people, pastors with their little crew, prayer and pizza tying in, everything tying in, basically, in a community. Business tying in. You got a job, you got a little corner of your business operation, and once in a while they're doing some work with the disabled or with certain projects, keeping everyone happy and employed, or, as I say, sometimes tied up. I'll just digress here. B-bus. I thought I was like the transportation brain of the world. Boy, did I have it wrong with B-bus. When I first joined Bay Bridge, I was living with my mom. I was my mom's companion in Harwich. And I would take this B-bus, and we would go for a ride, which could be like, at the most, I think it was 2 hours and 3/4, one way, because it would go there and zigzag around, picking everyone up. So you'd have this social time on the bus, and your dear leader would be the bus driver. We had one guy, I'm trying to think of his name. Anyway, what a guy he was. He had such a friendly and stabilizing way about him, and a good sense of humor and friendly. And yet he was driving the bus. And we were all on the bus going to our various programs, which could be cognitive, like capabilities, or, to and from your residence to some program, or Bay Bridge. At the time when I joined, it was a mix of, the old word is mental retardation and mental illness. But we had all the different disabilities, from the mentally ill to the cognitively challenged, slow, or what have you. And then we had what I call, and we had some physical disabilities in there too, but it wasn't known like the CHIPS program, a head injury with major disability programs, because we were non-clinical. Sometimes you need clinical to be built in, or next door would be ideal. Okay. But you had disabled people in that they were down on their luck, or spiritually disabled. And these are the two disabilities that I sort of invented as boxes to put people in. And for that, you would put people in the down on your luck box who were just making every mistake in the world on a constant basis, and they couldn't seem to get it right. Or spiritually disabled could be a person who had, like me, a death involved, and you were responsible, and you couldn't get over it, let's say. But that's partially me. And you could have a soldier who you really need in the mix in the clubhouse. And that soldier, you could say, let's not get into it. Would you like to be considered, just spiritually disabled? There's something in you that got disjointed. And there were ways of getting around that and working with that, and recovering from that is somewhat possible, eminently possible, with God's help. So spiritually disabled people, if you find yourself at the clubhouse, you'll find yourself working. It's perfect. So let's say you were a partial head injury case, and you got into a car accident, or you were a veteran, you got a knock on the head or a concussion, and you just weren't right, but you were pretty good most of the time. Okay. I think you'd appreciate the spiritual disability. And I think if you got in, on the other hand, if you got into this drug business and you were a fried egg, can't call people fried eggs, but I do. If you fry yourself on the drugs and the drinking, well, then you could say, well, that's not too lucky, you're down on your luck, right? Down on your luck. So you have physical disability, mental illness. So that would be P for physical disability. Let's say you got into a car crash and you were quadriplegic. That'd be definitely physical disability, or So a lot of these are mixes. You're a mix of this and that. It's like mongrels. We're all mongrels. We're Americans. Okay, so you've got mental illness as a category, and you've got the golden hearts, or cognitive or mentally retarded. Is the old word, and they don't like that. But I had a hard time with the cognitive. I hate to admit that. But, couldn't we have said slow? I could have picked up on that. I would have said, fine, slow, okay. But cognitively impaired, it just doesn't roll off the tongue, and it's just I don't like it jammed down my throat. I like slow. So physical disability, mentally ill, slow, and then you got down on your luck, and then you got spiritually disabled. So that project I called 5 Dogs on a Coast Guard Boat, or 5 disabilities and their caregivers, CG caregiver. It was just a name for a little project that I came up with years ago. It's in the notes, but I haven't worked on it. A lot of stuff I haven't worked on in a while, because I'm totally pressed on this green grid transit system. With this, I keep making progress on it. I really do. Hang on, Hepsie, hang on. We have to hang on and do the right thing. Thank you for watching the Scannell Agenda.